If you want to never stress about money again, the first thing you need to do is not ask for a raise. You got to stop working so hard to make somebody else rich. But not the way that most people think. Let me show you. Let's assume that you make $50,000 a year. The first thing that's going to happen is you got to send $10,000 to the IRS for your taxes. That means you have $40,000 left to spend for yourself. $40,000 a year is about $3,350 a month, rounded up. Now, you got to pay for your expenses. The first thing you got to do is pay for your housing costs. $1,500 a month for your rent. Then you're going to have to pay another $300 a month for your health insurance, another $300 a month for your utilities, things like your internet, your heat, your electricity, your phone bill. Then you're going to have to pay another $500 a month for your transportation. That's things like your car payment, your insurance, your gas. Then another $500 a month for your fun money. That's things like going to the movies and travel and eating out and shopping. And then another $250 a month for your food and groceries. Now, if you look at these numbers, what you see is none of these are very outlandish or crazy expenses. But if you do the math, this is going to leave you with $0 left over at the end of every month to build your savings. It's going to leave you with $0 left over to build your investments. And it's going to leave you with $0 left over to pay for your student loans or your credit card debt or to fund any emergency. Now, when you look at a financial statement like that, it can look very scary, like, holy crap, how can somebody blow all their money so fast and so easily and not have any money left over to make themselves wealthy? But what you'll see is that the majority of Americans are doing this, living paycheck to paycheck every single month with no money left over to make themselves rich. And this is why the majority of Americans have no money to protect them, not even a little bit, against a little emergency. And that's why for most people, if a little emergency happens, they end up in credit card debt. And so this is where now you got to understand, how do you break out of the system? And everybody here says, if you just got a little raise, if you could go from $50,000 a year to $60,000 or $70,000 a year, now all of a sudden, you're going to have the ability to have way more money to save and pay down your debt and start investing, because your expenses are based off of $50,000 a year. So if you're making $60,000, you got a $10,000 buffer. But statistically, what we've seen happen is as Americans make more money, they end up in a bigger financial hole. And that's why even the majority of Americans making over $100,000 a year are broke, living paycheck to paycheck. It's not just because of how much money you make, it's what you do with the money you make, and that's why you got to stop making other people rich. And this is where most people assume that means I got to stop working for my boss because I'm working to make my boss richer, but that's not what I'm talking about. Because if I show those numbers on the screen here again, take a look at these expenses, what you'll see is that you are working hard to make this money. You're working hard to make that 50 grand, but who's getting paid? It's not you. It's first the government getting paid through taxes. Then you got to pay your landlord or your banker through your mortgage. Then you got to pay people like your health insurance company. Then you got to pay the utility company. Then you got to pay the car company. Then you got to pay the gas company. Then you got to pay for the food and the entertainment. All you're doing is working hard to make money to give it to everybody else. You're working hard to generate money so you can redistribute it to everybody else. But if you really want to become wealthy, you got to change what you do with your money. And that means you got to stop making other people rich, and you got to use your money to make yourself rich. See, most people are working hard to make money so they can make other people rich, which means they're working hard to get paid so they can look like they're rich. Because now if you're working hard to get paid and then you give this money to Gucci, you give this money to Lululemon, you give this money to Amazon, you give this money to BMW, you look like you're rich. You look like you made it. You have all the nice stuff, and this is what's normal. In fact, what's normal is to go out and spend more money than what you're generating through your credit card, through buy now, pay later, or as I like to call it, broke now, broke later, to use home equity lines of credit and other forms of debt to spend the money you don't have to buy things that make you look rich. But now what you're doing is you're spending tomorrow's income to buy something that's losing money. Because what is debt? It doesn't matter what type of debt you're using, whether it's credit cards or whether it's buy now, pay later. What is debt? Debt means you're spending your future income today. You're using tomorrow's income to spend it today. But what you're doing when you're going out and buying these things is you're using your future income to buy something that's losing value. So when you go out and you finance that BMW, you're using tomorrow's income to buy a car that's losing value. And then you got to pay interest on top of that because your BMW is losing value. When you go out to finance the Gucci or the vacation or the nice stuff, all these things are dropping in value, and you're using your future income to pay for that today. You're using tomorrow's income to look like you're richer today, but what you end up doing is making your banker richer tomorrow. You're making the Gucci richer today. And if you want to stop worrying about money, the first thing you got to do is not try to get more money, because that ends up making you broker most of the time. You got to now work to make yourself rich. And that means you got to stop with all the spending. You got to stop giving all your money to everybody else. You got to stop with the redistribution of your wealth. You got to keep that wealth for yourself if you want to start getting rich. So how do you do that? Well, if you break this down step by step, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, so you might want to stop this video and watch this part again. But if you really want to build wealth, the very first thing you got to do is you got to give yourself a $2,000 cushion. You got to save $2,000 as fast as possible. Then the second thing you got to do is you got to pay down your high interest debts, your credit card debts, and your payday loans as fast as possible. These two things you need to do as fast as possible, because these are the time you're in your danger zone. Because if you don't have $2,000, if you have credit card debt, these things are keeping you back from ever becoming financially free. They're keeping you back from ever becoming wealthy, because you're digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. Because anytime something small happens, you just keep going further behind. So you need to do these two things as fast as possible. If you don't got $2,000, or if you got credit card debt, you should not be watching Netflix at nighttime. You should not feel comfortable sitting there watching Netflix, because you got to get out of this financial danger zone first. The third thing you got to do now is you got to track your money. Get a Google Sheet, get a piece of paper, get a spreadsheet, doesn't matter, and write down how much money you're making, where you're making your money from, and then below that, write down all of your expenses. And I know this one can be a little painful to do, because one, it takes a little bit of time, but then you got to actually look at how you're spending your money. But you got to write down where all of your money is going. Look at your credit card statements, look at your debit card statements, look at your bank statements, write down all of your expenses. Then I want you to write down how much money you saved, if any. How much money did you invest, if any? How much money did you give to charity, if any? Got to know where your money is going. And as soon as you do this, immediately, I can guarantee you're going to look at this and say, holy moly, I cannot believe how much money you spent at Lululemon, at Benihana, at Amazon, or wherever. And that's going to make you want to start making some changes. It's hard to do this, but you got to do this if you really want to start building that wealth and stop worrying about money. The fourth thing you got to do now is you need to start creating a system for your money. Because what most people do is they make $100 and they spend $100. Or actually, they make $100 and then they spend $120 with credit. But what wealthy people do is they have a system for their money. They know that if I make $100, here's how much I'm allowed to spend, here's how much I invest, here's how much I save. If I made $100,000, here's how much I'm allowed to invest, here's how much I invest, here's how much I save. Most people have no idea what they would do if they earn more money like that. And you have to create this system that way you know what to do when you get more money. So a simple thing that you can follow is something like a 75-15-10 plan, which says that for every dollar that you earn from here on out, 75 cents is the maximum that you can spend. 15 cents is the minimum that you invest. 10 cents is the minimum that you save. Now, no matter how much money you're making, you're working to make yourself rich first, because you're not spending all of your money. You're not redistributing all of your money. You're using some of that money to make yourself rich, because that's where real wealth is built. The fifth thing that you got to do is you got to get your spending under control. That means no more 0% APR, no more financing liabilities, no more going into debt to buy things that aren't making you any money. And you can consider paying down some of your lower interest rate debts, things like your mortgage, things like your car payment, depending on what your financial goals are. Some of you, it might be, I'd rather invest my money. For some of you, it might be, I just want to get out of all of my payments. And so once you get here, that's when you can start making those tougher questions and start asking those questions and answering those questions. The sixth thing that you got to do is now you got to fuel the system. Now you got to start figuring out how you can earn more money. Notice that if you start earning more money first, what happens? You spend more money, because banks look at you as a more credit-worthy person. So most people will make more money and then they spend more money. That's why when most people go from $50,000 a year to $60,000 a year, they don't see any more wealth. In fact, they just see more liabilities. And that's where now you got to understand the controlling of your spending before you start worrying about how can you control your income. Now, once you understand this is where your income becomes more powerful, because now you know what to do with the income, and you're making more money not to drive a faster car, you're making more money to have more assets to accelerate your wealth. Now, how do you earn more money? Work to get a raise, work to get a promotion, work to get a bonus, maybe you get a second job, maybe you get a career change, maybe you get a certificate, maybe you work to start a side hustle, maybe you work to start your own business. It doesn't really matter what you do, but it's what you do with the money that matters, because now you're working to earn more money to make yourself rich instead of everybody else. No more of you redistributing your wealth. You're going to use your wealth to make yourself rich. And number 7 is you got to protect your assets, because as an attorney, who is not your attorney, what I can tell you is when people realize you have money, they're going to try to take some of your money for themselves. So this is where you want to start investing in good advisors, a good tax advisor, a good attorney, good planners to help you protect yourself legally, financially. That way, when people come after you, because they will come after you, you have the right protections in place. Now, if you want to learn more about how to do all of this, we have a free ebook at Briefs Media, which is my company, titled How to Build Wealth as an Investor, that'll walk you through how to do each one of these things step by step. And it even goes over how to build a mindset of an investor, the different ways that you can invest your money, how you can generate cash flow. This ebook is completely free. So if you want to read this ebook for free, start learning and start building your financial education, I'll put the link to how you can download this ebook for free down in the description below, or you can go to briefs.co/ebook. That way you can keep learning. But the key here, I'm going to go back to what I was talking about in the beginning of this video. If you want to stop worrying about money, if you want to stop stressing about money, if you no longer want to have to worry about how you're going to make your next payment, you got to stop making everybody else rich. This one is hard because you assume that you're living a lifestyle where you can't cut back. But that is going to be the first step to breaking out of this, because you have to start using your money to make you money. Because what wealthy people work to do, which is different than what broke people and everybody else works to do, is wealthy people work hard to earn money to buy things that make them money. They're working hard to make money so they can make more money. Broke people make money to look like they made money. It's a very different way of thinking. And the reason why so many people won't do this is because they don't see the results quickly. Because when you start investing your money tomorrow, you're not going to see that wealth tomorrow or next week or next month or even next year. And this is where people say, I've been working so hard to invest my money for 18 months, but I haven't seen the returns that I was hoping for. I'm just going to go out and enjoy my life. But this is why I call it a decade of sacrifice. Because if you're willing to put in a decade of you living smaller and earning more so you can invest more aggressively, you are going to have the ability to create a whole new stream of income and a whole new side of wealth that you didn't even know was possible. And that's why most people won't do it, because most people want to have the nice things today. We want to have the fast stuff today. We want to have the nice stuff today. We want to look like we made it today, because who would want to be rich when they're old? I'd rather be looking like I'm rich when I'm young. But you're not going to be young forever. Eventually, you got to pay that bill. And if you want to stop worrying about money, you got to understand that becoming wealthy is a lifestyle. It's not something you do for 2 days. Like if you were going to train to run a marathon, you don't do it for 2 days and expect to be able to run a marathon. You live a healthy lifestyle. You change how you eat. You change how you train. You start working out better. You start running a little bit. It's a change of lifestyle. Versus the people that say, you know what, I just want to lose 10 pounds for this wedding. They might lose 10 pounds in the 3 months. And then 3 months later, they gained 10, 15 pounds. Why? Because after the wedding happens, you go back to Krispy Kreme and you start stuffing your face with donuts again. But if you want to live a healthy lifestyle, that's how you lose the weight and keep the weight off. It's the same thing with your money. You got to make that real decision of what type of person you want to be. Do you want to be a financially fit person, or do you want to be a financially broke person? And you got to start. It starts here. Not by earning more money. It starts by controlling the spending. It starts by not making everybody else rich. And if you can start doing that, then you start controlling how you use your money. You start using your money to buy assets. That way you can make more money. Then you start getting more money. And now there's a lot of ways you can earn more money. Go out and start a business if you want. Go out and get a career change if you want. Go out and get a second job. It doesn't matter how you're earning more money, but you're earning more money now. That way you have more money to invest and start building more wealth. And if you stick with this and you keep learning, you read books, you watch YouTube videos, you listen to podcasts, maybe take some classes, in 6 months, you're going to see a completely different world. And in 6 years, you're not going to recognize yourself financially. But it takes that discipline to keep coming back when everybody else is running around posting on Instagram how they just bought themselves a brand new BMW, how they just got a brand new Gucci handbag, how they're just showing off how broke they are. You got to be the person that's slowly building your wealth. And then pretty soon, you're going to be able to buy all that nice stuff and not have to worry about the money, because you're not going to be working hard to get paid to buy that stuff. You're going to have your assets, your investments working hard to buy you the car, to buy you the Gucci, to buy you the Amazon, to buy you the Louis Vuitton, to buy you the whatever you want. Now you don't got to worry about the price. If we go back a few years to the pandemic boom, we saw money flowing freely, and this meant that businesses were booming and hiring went nuts across the economy. But then, of course, came 2022. And in 2022, that was when things started to flip, because we started to see the impacts of all the money printing through the high inflation, and that was when our central bank